A young woman sits in gate 23, motionless as stone. Her dark hair falls like the curtains around her face, her shoulders drawn inward as if protecting something fragile. She hasn't moved in 3 hours. Roy Martinez knows because he's been watching, not staring, just noticing, the way cleaners learn to notice when something doesn't belong. Her bag rests at her feet. Navy blue canvas, worn at the corners. The tag dangling from its handle dated yesterday. Something about it nags at him, though he can't yet place what. Before I tell you what happened next, if you ever had a stranger step in and change your day for the better, tell me about it in the comments. At 2 a.m., the terminal breathes differently than during the day. Fluorescent lights hum like a soft tune. Vending machines buzz in mechanical conversation. The PA system goes quiet, and the air smells faintly of coffee gone cold. Roy moves through his nocturnal world like a conductor orchestrating silence. At 63, his movements are precise, economical, each swipe of the mop deliberate, each spray of cleaner measured. He has cleaned this terminal for 17 years, arriving when the last passengers stumble toward their gate, and leaving when the first early birds check in. In those quiet hours between worlds, he sees things others miss. Tonight, it's her. She lifts her head just for a moment, and their eyes meet across the empty concourse. Hers, dark and hollow. His, steady and curious. Something passes between them, unspoken but unmistakable. Recognition of solitude, perhaps, or the weight of carrying something alone. She looks away at first, but not before Roy sees it. The flicker of someone standing on the edge of something they can't come back from. Roy's routine is sacred. Every night, the same path. Terminal A, West Wing, then East, then the food court, and then the gates. 47 minutes to cover it all. Another 13 for the restroom and staff areas. He moves like water, flowing around obstacles that don't even know he exists. He likes the invisibility. Passengers look through him. Security guards nod absently. And even the other night, staff treat him like part of the architecture. There's peace in being unseen, in having a purpose that asks nothing more than to leave things cleaner than you found them. The terminal at this hour is a place between worlds, not quite asleep, not quite awake. A luggage cart rattles somewhere in the distance. An escalator hums like a lazy river. The floor beneath his mops reflects every overhead light. So polished it feels almost wrong to walk on. Roy, my man. Officer Mendez appears beside a coffee kiosk, unwrapping a sandwich that smells faintly of onions. His uniform is rumpled, his badge catching the glare from the display case. You catch the game last night? Don't have cable, Roy replies, wringing out his mop with mechanical precision. Curse you don't. You're too good for earthly pleasures. Mendez grins. But there's affection in it. They've known each other for 3 years. Long enough for comfortable banter. Not long enough for Mendez to understand that Roy isn't being superior. He's just careful with money, with attachments, with hope. Roy glances at the clock. 2:07 a.m. and moves towards his next section. His phone buzzes. The name Amelia flashes on the screen. He stares at it until it stops ringing. The voicemail notification appears. Number 17 this week. He doesn't listen anymore. What's the point? The same words, rearranged in different ways. Dad, we need to talk. Dad, I'm worried about you. Dad, why won't you call me back? Because talking requires explaining. Explaining requires admitting that somewhere between her mother's death and her moving across the country, he forgot how to be anyone's father. Better to stay quiet than to disappoint her again. He pockets the phone and keeps moving. letting the rhythm of his cartwheels and mop swishes fill the silence where guilt usually lives. Along the way, other things catch his attention. A single black suitcase abandoned near gate 15, wheels angled towards the exit, as if its owner just walked away. The departure board at gate 8 flickers between destinations. Detroit, then Denver, then nothing at all. A maintenance door hangs slightly open, revealing a draft of cold air from somewhere it shouldn't be. The airport after midnight is full of small mysteries, but Roy has learned not to investigate. Mysteries have a way of becoming problems, and problems have a way of requiring more from you than you've prepared to give. He turns a corner and sees her again, the woman at gate 23. From a distance, she could almost pass for a sleeping passenger waiting out a layover. But Roy's eyes, trained by years of noticing what others miss, pick out the details. Her posture hasn't shifted in hours. Her bag, navy blue canvas, worn at the seams, carries a flight tag from 3 days ago, Chicago to Portland. A route that was grounded all week due to weather delays. Her jacket looks like she's been sleeping in it, the fabric creased and tired, and there's that stillness. Not the kind of stillness that comes from the rest, but the kind born from trying not to be noticed at all. Leave her be, Roy. Mendez's voice floats over from the other side of the concourse. Casual, but edged with authority. Not our business. Roy nods. He turns his car towards the departure lounges, but something in his chest doesn't follow. At the corner, he glances back and sees her watching him. Not a glance, a steady, unbroken look. The kind that feels like it's searching for something. She doesn't look away. For a moment, the sound of the terminal fades. No hum of lights, no buzz of vending machines, just the thin air between them. Roy feels it then, in the pit of his stomach, the unmistakable recognition of someone standing at the edge of a place you can't come back from. He blinks, and the spell breaks. She lowers her gaze. He turns the corner, but the image stays with him. Sometimes being invisible is a choice, and sometimes, it's just what happens when you stop believing you matter enough to be noticed. And tonight, for the first time in a long while, Roy wonders which one he is. 4 hours pass like held breath. Roy completes 2 full circuits of the terminal, empties 19 trash bins, and mops up a spilled latte near gate 12. Through it all, she remains, a constant in his peripheral vision, unmoved, unmovable. On his third pass, he lets himself look closer. Her shoes are scuffed at the toes, worn thin at the heels, the kind of wear that comes from walking miles on concrete, from having nowhere softer to land. The laces are mismatched, one newer than the other. Her bag's zip is frayed, the pull tab missing, replaced by a dull safety pin. And then he notices the swelling, a faint puffiness around her left eye, just enough to hint at the fading ghost of purple beneath the foundation that wasn't built to last this long. Roy's hand tightened on his mop handle. He's seen that look before, in shelters where he used to volunteer, in the faces of women who measured safety in hours, not days. But knowing something and acting on it are two different countries. And Roy has lived in the no man's land between them for so long that crossing over feels impossible. Mendez's radio crackles. Need backup over Terminal B, a voice says. Drunk passenger situation. Mendez sighs, glances at Roy. Don't let anyone burn the place down, he jokes before heading off. Now, the concourse feels even larger, emptier. It's just Roy, the woman at gate 23, and the endless hum of the airport's night machinery. He starts working on the section of the floor near her gate, even though it's already clean. The mop squeaks against the tile. She flinches. It's tiny, just a ripple through her posture. but he catches it. Her hand slides instinctively to her back, pulling it slightly closer, the way you might guard a secret. In that simple movement, Roy sees a lifetime of learning to expect the worst from unexpected sounds. He retreats, not wanting to spook her further. The supply closet swallows him in its dim, chemical scented quiet. His phone is in his pocket. He could call Amelia. She'd know what to do. She works in social services now. But the thought of hearing her voice after so many unanswered calls makes his chest tighten. His fingers hovers over her name. What would he even say? Hey, I think there's a young woman here who, well, I don't know exactly what's wrong, but something is. Or maybe, I think she needs help, but I don't remember how to be the kind of man who can give it. Instead, he slides the phone back into his pocket. Some silences are easier to keep than to break. When he steps out again, 20 minutes have passed. Gate 23 is in view, but the woman's bag is gone. A surprising rush of relief floods him. Maybe she caught a flight. Maybe someone came for her. Maybe the problem solved itself, the way some problems do when you ignore them long enough. But then he rounds the corner. She's still there. The bag is back at her feet. But something's changed. The safety pin is gone. The zipper gapes just enough for the terminal slide to slip inside. And there, just for a second, something catches the golden glow and throws it back. A glint, cold, unmistakable. Roy stops pushing his cart. His reflection stares back from the polished floor. An aging man, in a custodian's uniform, standing between the safety of invisibility and the risk of being needed. The hum of the vending machine feels louder now. The PA system mutters about a flight boarding in faraway gate. But here, at gate 23, time seems to stall. He takes a slow breath. Don't get involved. He hears Mendez's voice echo in his head. But another voice comes too. One from years ago. From the shelter. From a woman holding a paper cup of coffee in trembling hands. The hardest part isn't leaving. It's believing someone will notice if you do. Roy grips the mop handle tighter, feeling the smooth wood warm under his palms. His heart is steady, but his thoughts aren't. Maybe he's wrong. Maybe the glint is nothing, but maybe it's everything. She hasn't looked at him since he came back. Her gaze is fixed on the departure board, eyes glazed, like she's watching a movie she's already seen too many times. He steps forward, slow enough not to startle her, and begins mopping an already spotless tile. The squeak sounds louder now, sharper. Her hands twitches towards the bag again. Hard night? He hears himself ask. She doesn't look at him, doesn't answer. I've had a few of those, he adds quietly. The kind where you just want the world to forget you for a while. Her head tilts just slightly, as if she's deciding whether or not to acknowledge him. But then, she straightens her posture again, retreating back into her stillness. Roy feels the words building in his throat, but before he can say them, the intercom bursts to life with another flight announcement, breaking the moment. He moves away, but his eyes stay locked on the bag. The glint is gone now, swallowed by shadow, but the unease stays, and for the first time in years, Roy finds himself standing on the edge of action, wondering if maybe, just maybe, he's about to step across. Roy has always believed that the smallest gestures often matter the most. At Amelia's soccer games, back when they still spoke easily, he brought orange slices cut into perfect wedges. No pith, no seeds, just sweet fruit they could devour between halves. When his wife, Maria, went through chemo, he spent hours experimenting in the kitchen until he found one tea that didn't make her nauseated. Ginger with honey, not too hot. Those gestures were never grand, never loud. They simply said what his voice struggled to. I see you. You matter. You're not alone. Tonight, under the blinking lights of Terminal A, he reaches for the same language. He ducks into the closed coffee shop, the kind that locks its the kind that locks its register at 9 p.m. but leaves the hot water tap running for staff. But leaves the hot water tap running for staff. From the bottom of his cart, he pulls out his battered thermos of chamomile tea, brewed before he left the house, still warm. The scent is soft, floral, the kind that reminds him of quiet kitchens and open windows in spring. When he approaches gate 23, he slows his pace. Every step is deliberate, his posture unthreatening. He sets the paper cup gently on the armrest beside her, careful not to invade her space. Thought you might be cold, he says, his voice a low ripple in the vast stillness. It's the first time she looks at him. Her eyes are the color of deep water, layered, restless, holding more beneath the surface than she's willing to show. There's a flicker of suspicion there, the kind people carry when kindness has too often been a precursor to disappointment. She shakes her head once. No thank you, no charity, no complications. Roy simply nods. All right. No pleading, no insistence, just acceptance. He walks away, pushing his cart 3 gates down, the mop gliding over tiles that already shine. He doesn't look back, not yet. There's a kind of trust in leaving someone space to choose. As his mother used to say, you can force a flower to bloom by staring at it. 20 minutes later, when he finally allows himself a glance, the cup is in her hands. Steam curls upward between her fingers like incense, catching the cold terminal air. She drinks slowly, as if reacquainting herself with warmth. Roy lingers nearby, tending to a scuffed tile that has been polished to perfection for years. He knows the dance of appearing busy while keeping his presence steady, close enough to be a comfort, far enough to avoid feeling like an intrusion. The terminal is hushed except for the distant hum of escalators and the muted beeps of cleaning robots somewhere near the baggage claim. Then he hears it. Soft, muffled sounds, escaping despite her efforts. Crying that isn't theatrical, isn't meant for an audience. The kind that comes from deep in the chest, where old grief lives. Her phone lowers slightly, screen still lit but ignored. Her words come out unsteady, aimed not at him, but into the space between them. I am waiting for someone. Her thumb grazes at the edge of her sleeve, tugging it down just a fraction, as if to hide the faint bruise he noticed earlier. Roy keeps his gaze on the floor, letting her keep the power of speaking without being watched. Connection flight? He asked casually, as though they're making small talk in the grocery store line. Something like that. She hesitates. The PA system crackles overhead, announcing, again, that all service to Portland suspended due to ongoing weather. It's the same message she's heard for days now. He was supposed to meet me, she adds. The past tense hangs between them like a fog, visible, heavy, and impossible to ignore. Roy straightens slowly, his eyes meeting hers for the first time without looking away. There's always another flight, he says. His tone is gentle, not optimistic to the point of cruelty, but carrying a weight of quiet conviction. Her laugh is short, almost a cough, brittle along the edges. Not where I'm going. Something in him shifts at that. He wants to ask what she means, but knows too many questions can shut a person down faster than silence. Roy then reaches into his pocket and finds a napkin, slightly creased from weeks of living in his cart. His pen, a cheap ballpoint whose cap has long disappeared, scratches softly against the paper. There's always another flight. The words are simple, but they feel like an offering, not advice, not a lecture, just a reminder. He places the napkin beside her empty teacup. You can keep it, he says, and moves on without waiting for acknowledgement. Some things you leave behind, not knowing if they'll be picked up. As he works his way down the concourse, buffing already glossy railings, he catches sight of her again. And this time, she's holding the napkin like a fragile relic, her thumb tracing the ink over and over. It's the kind of gesture people make when they're testing the strength of a word, wondering if it can hold their weight. Roy pretends not to notice, but inside, something has already tilted. The work feels different now. The night feels different now. And maybe, just maybe, he does too. Because sometimes, the smallest gesture isn't small at all. It's a doorway. The first blush of dawn crept into the terminal, painting the polished floors in pale gold. Roy had just finished wiping down the last row of seats when Officer Mendez reappeared, coffee in one hand, clipboard in the other. He was moving with that particular wariness that comes from chasing problems that have no neat solutions. His eyes landed on Talia instantly. Impossible to miss now that the light revealed every crease in her clothes, every shadow under her eyes. "All right, miss," Mendez said, his voice carrying both authority and an undertone of real concern. "Airport's not a hotel. Time to head out." Thalia's gaze snapped up, like someone coming out of deep water. Her fingers tightened around her bag. Roy caught it again. That metallic glint, sharper now in the morning light. "She's with me," Roy said before his mind had even caught up to his mouth. Both Mendez and Talia looked at him. Roy stepped forward, leaving his mop and cart behind like they didn't matter. "She's with me," he repeated, steadier this time. Mendez frowned. "Roy, you can't just—" A sharp alarm cut through the air, harsh and insistent. His radio flared with static and urgent voices. "Code yellow in Terminal B. Medical emergency." "Stay here," Mendez said, already moving. "We'll finish this later." And then the world changed. The concourse, empty for hours, was suddenly alive. Passengers flooded in, voices overlapping in dozens of hurried conversations. Rolling luggage clattered over tile. Boarding announcements echoed, and the once quiet space turned into a river of movement. Roy instinctively shifted closer to Talia, blocking the current of people from brushing past her. Someone's suitcase clipped her shoulder. His hands went there automatically, steadying her. It was the first time he'd touched another person in months. She looked up at him, almost startled. "Thank you," she murmured. They stayed like that for a moment, two still points in the chaos. And then she spoke. "I came here to disappear." Roy waited, letting her decide how much of the story to give him. "I was supposed to meet someone here," she continued, her eyes darting towards the security gates. "We had tickets to Seattle. My fiancé." Her voice faltered, but she didn't stop. It was supposed to be the start of everything. New place, new life. We've been planning it for months. She gave a small, humorless laugh. He never showed. No text, no call, just nothing. I sat here thinking maybe he missed his flight, or maybe something happened. But flies kept coming in. People kept arriving, and he never did. Roy's chest tightened. How long ago? 3 days. The words landed heavily between them. Why stay? He asked gently. Because if I left, it would be real, she said. Here, I could pretend maybe he was still coming, that there was a reason, but deep down, she looked down at her bag. I think I knew. He didn't change his mind about the trip. He changed his mind about me. They both sat in silence for a beat, the kind of silence that felt honest rather than awkward. Roy thought of Amelia, 17 unread voicemails, each one a reminder of how far he'd drifted. He thought of Maria's funeral and how he'd slipped out before anyone could try to make him talk about it. I get it, he said finally. I know what it feels like to feel like you've been erased. She studied him. Is that why you helped me? Partly, Roy admitted, but mostly because invisible people see each other. We notice the cracks in the walls because we've been the ones holding ourselves together with tape and stubbornness. Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but not far from it. They sat down together on the bench, the noise of the terminal softening into background hum. I kept thinking he'd walk in, she said. Even last night, I thought I'd hear his voice in any second. But every hour that passed, it just chipped away at that hope until I didn't want to feel anything at all. Roy leaned forward, resting his forearms on his knees. Hope's a tricky thing. It keeps you alive, but it can also keep you stuck in a place you were never meant to stay. And what do you do when you've run out of it? She said. You find something smaller to hold on to, he said. Something as simple as making it to sunrise, or drinking a cup of tea, or talking to a janitor when you thought you'd never talk to anyone again. That earned a quiet, almost surprised laugh from her. You think talking to you counts as progress? She asked. For tonight? Roy said, meeting her eyes. Yeah, I think it does. She looked at him for a long moment. And if I don't know what to do after sunrise, then you take another sunrise after that, he said, one at a time. The loudspeakers announced another boarding call, the voice echoing over their heads. Neither of them moved. You don't have to disappear alone, Roy said softly. I'll sit with you until morning. Her shoulders eased slightly, like something she'd been holding on to had loosened. Okay. They didn't talk much after that, but when the light shifted and the sky outside began to brighten, they were still there. Two people who had decided, at least for now, to stay. By the time the first real rays of morning broke through the glass walls, the terminal had softened into something almost peaceful again. The crowds thinned, announcements slowed, and the space breathed like a body settling after a long night. Roy turned towards gate 23, expecting to see her still curled on the bench. But the seat was empty. Only the teacup remained, cold now, with a faint ring at the bottom, and the napkin was gone. He stood there for a moment longer than necessary, scanning the surrounding gates. Nothing, just the quiet shuffle of early travelers and the slow creak of the heating system. Some part of him had braced for her disappearance. Another part wasn't quite ready for the empty space she left behind. Back in the janitor's closet, Roy packed away the mop and leaned against the wall. It wasn't relief he felt, not worry either, more like the echo of a conversation that had mattered, the kind that stays with you even when the other person is gone. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Amelia's name lit up the screen. For once, he didn't hesitate. Hey, he said. His voice was rough from disuse, but steadier than he expected. There was a pause on the other end. The kind of pause you get when someone isn't sure if you'll answer. Dad? Yeah, sorry I've been distant lately. Another pause. I was thinking maybe dinner this weekend? My treat. He smiled. Small but real. Yeah, I'd like that. 2 weeks later, the letter came. It was an ordinary envelope, no return address, just his name written in neat, unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper and something folded with it. Dear Roy, I didn't know how to thank you that morning. You didn't ask me for an explanation, but you gave me the space to find one anyway. I left the airport and checked into a shelter. They helped me get a bus ticket to my sister's place in Oregon. I'm not fixed. Not yet. But I'm no longer sitting in a place waiting for someone who isn't coming. I'm moving again. That's because of you. You told me there's always another flight. I'm starting to believe you. That night, Roy was back in the terminal. The fluorescent lights hummed. The vending machines clicked. The same mechanical symphony he'd always known. But his eyes weren't fixed on the floor anymore. As he moved through the concourse, his gaze lingered on the faces. The weary travelers, the lost looking ones, the people sitting just a little too still. Some people looked away quickly, not seeing him at all, but a few met his eyes, and when they did, he didn't glance away like before. He offered a nod, a small smile. Nothing dramatic, just the kind of acknowledgement that says, I see you. The mop swished rhythmically across the tiles. But now, it was just part of the work. The real job, the one he'd given himself, was something quieter, something harder to measure. In the reflection of the terminal windows, Roy saw himself. Same uniform, same tools, same man. But he knew better. Because sometimes, noticing isn't just about catching what's wrong. Sometimes, noticing is the first step to setting something right. And that's the thing about everyday heroes. They're all around us.